Let's begin with a switch that deserves way more recognition, these Jersey honeybean switches. One of the big highlights here are the materials. This isn't your usual nylon or polycarbonate housing with the palm stem combo that you see in a lot of other switches out there. Rather, what we have here are palm housings paired with a lye stem. Lye in particular is known for a very low coefficient of friction, contributing to these honeybeans' standout smoothness. Plus, the honeybean's 42-gram actuation makes it lighter than 85% of switches out there, perfect if you're a lighter typist. Now, for my RGB enthusiasts out there, Jersey didn't forget about you. These switches come with a nice light diffuser built right in for better and brighter RGB effects. These switches come in at $359 per 10 at Milktooth. Given the more niche materials these switches use, these honeybean switches come at a super accessible price point. Especially if you're a more advanced enthusiast, I take a closer look at these honeybeans, since these are truly at the forefront of switch innovation. Here's the sound test for them. Akko is known for being the best bang for your buck switch brand on the market, so it should come as no surprise that these fairy switches are my pick for the best budget linear switch. In terms of typing feel, the word that comes to mind is pillowy. It's just soft and it has a great delicate texture. These have a short travel to at just 3.3mm, so they feel a little more condensed. In terms of weight, these have a bottom out of 60 grams, making it lighter than a little more than half of all switches out there. All things considered, not too light, but not too heavy either. These fairy switches come in at $310 per 10. Normally, they go for $422 per 10, but at Milktooth, our customers save on average 27% on switches. Plus, you get free shipping on orders over $49. So make sure to click the links in the description if you want to get the best deals on switches. Here's the sound test. One reason why you might be interested in silent switches is because you have to use them in a shared environment like in an office, where you have to be typing all day. If that's the case, you might want something super light as well, so your fingers don't get fatigued easily. And in my view, the Otomu Peaches are the perfect switches for that. They're the lightest switches on our list today, even lighter than the honeybeans. They remind me of a lighter version of the fairy switches we just talked about. With a super light 50-gram bottom out force, they're lighter than 90% of switches out there, and these have a well-padded bottom out. It's almost felty to me, which is a super unique sensation that I actually quite like. Here's the sound test. Having a category called the stiffest silent linear switch might raise a few eyebrows at first, but let's provide some context. A common complaint among silent switches is the fact that they feel a little mushy. That's mostly because a lot of them incorporate dampeners right on the stem, as you can see here. The idea is pretty solid. By adding these dampeners, the typical clashing noise you'd get from the stem hitting the housing is toned down both when you press the key down and when it comes back up. But the downside is that the silicone dampener tends to soften the feel, making the switches not as firm as some might like. Luckily, the WS Silent Linear uses a novel silencing mechanism to address this issue. As you can see, there's no dampener on the stem of these switches. Instead, their innovative approach to silencing involves the use of cutouts. So these silent linears feel a lot stiffer. There's one trade-off though, they're not quite as silent as most of your standard silent switches out there. But for those who really value that firm bottom out, sacrificing a little bit of silence might be a trade worth making. Here's the sound test. Alright, let's switch gears and talk about what I consider to be the crown jewel of silent linear switches. The Silent Frozens by TTC. There's a level of premiumness here that just makes them stand out from the crowd, easily making them my top pick for anyone looking for a silent switch. Let me break down why they're my go-to. First up, what really sets the Silent Frozens apart is the spring. It's this lengthened, silver-plated spring that offers a super nice, snappy feel to each keystroke. And just like the honeybeans we talked about earlier, TTC didn't skimp on the RGB compatibility. The Silent Frozens come equipped with an RGB light diffuser. But here's where the Silent Frozens really shine, the silencing technology. TTC has integrated a unique gasket on the stem, alongside additional dampeners within the switch itself, to deliver what is arguably the most effective noise reduction on the market. To be honest, there's a part of me that thinks it's over-engineered, but I can't deny the results speak for themselves, since these are whisper quiet. And these are super smooth too, with excellent factory lube, providing a glide that's just a pleasure to type on. And while the Silent Frozens are not as rigid as the WS Silent Linears, they're not mushy either, striking a perfect balance. In essence, the Silent Frozens are what I call the Goldilocks of silent linear switches. Not too light, not too heavy, just perfect. Plus, at Milktooth, you save almost 40% on these switches. Now, let's take a listen to how these sound. Now that we've covered all the switches, here are back-to-back sound tests for all of them. But if silent tactiles are of interest to you as well, make sure to watch this video here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.